Would you call someone a bold-faced liar and then work with them? Drop your answers in the comments. We are, of course, talking AJ Styles coming back around for a third time to face Roman Reigns at pay-per-view with a WWE title on the line. The big one, the conjoined WWE and Universal Championships. There's a lot to decipher here, particularly the heavy involvement of Paul Heyman, Luke Gallows and Karl Anderson, and how many things have changed in the build to making this match happen. The WWE have been trying to get a round 3 since 2020, and it has taken us 3 years to get here. The match may happen as soon as Crown Jewel in November in Saudi Arabia, so let's talk about how we got back here. To start with, back in 2020, AJ Styles and Roman Reigns was potentially back on the agenda, though Roman Reigns did unfortunately disappear in the build-up to 2020's WrestleMania. After WrestleMania 32 in 2016, we saw 2 straight pay-per-views of Roman Reigns versus AJ Styles before the brand split would be formalized once again, and a newly heel AJ Styles would win the championship from Dean Ambrose, now Jon Moxley. Imagine AJ Styles versus Jon Moxley now, it's an entirely different world. In 2020, AJ Styles was on Monday Night Raw under the lead of Executive Director Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman's job then was essentially what Triple H is now, but just for Monday Night Raw, and also under his employ were Luke Gallows and Karl Anderson, and they play a heavy role in this. They also appeared in 2016, joining AJ Styles to form the Club, which would be the basis of the Club versus the original 2016 Bloodline with Roman Reigns and both Usos. This is where we seem to be heading once again. There will be one less Uso and one more Solo. At the point of time in which this all happened, AJ Styles is quoted as saying, as regards Paul Heyman, "When it comes to the rumour of Paul Heyman and me being upset with him because he didn't take out for Gallows and Anderson, that's not what it was at all, not even close. I'll give you a snippet of what me, Gallows and Anderson already know. He's a liar. Now you know, and I'm sure you know back to his ECW days, he's a bold-faced liar. That's my take on it." That was during a Mixer stream back when Mixer was still a thing, before it got beaten by Twitch and Twitch got beaten by YouTube. When it comes to what happened between AJ Styles and Paul Heyman, it is actually relatively simple. Major promises were made to the entirety of the club when Paul Heyman took over as executive director as part of creative meetings and creative dealings, and those promises were simply not kept. Gallows and Anderson later on would lose their jobs with the WWE, and in fact, they really weren't getting any sort of push in the build-up to it anyway. They were briefly tag team championships before the arrival of the Hardy Boys, at which point that was the end of that, and they never really competed again. In fact, AJ Styles, Luke Gallows and Karl Anderson haven't competed for major honours in a very long time, primarily because people like AJ Styles are such a top level that there's no point scrapping for the IC for the United States Championship and looking like you're simply not that big a deal. Though we have had Intercontinental and United States Champion AJ Styles, the top level championships have eluded him. Roman Reigns is the main reason. So AJ Styles couldn't get close to Roman because of the ongoing issues with Paul Heyman. Those have now started to change. While Styles did openly blame Paul Heyman for lies he's apparently made while executive director, AJ Styles is not one to sit idly. He took action. He moved from Monday Night Raw to SmackDown, as first reported by myself, and as resulted in my very first Reddit hate thread, which you can find out there. I reported it in the January. The actual thread is out there from the January saying, he reported that after WrestleMania, AJ Styles would move to SmackDown. He lied, and then after WrestleMania he moved to SmackDown. Always a fun one. Everyone loves their first Reddit hate thread. This created a long-term grudge that AJ Styles held against Paul Heyman, and in fact many of the shake-ups since have actually revolved around that. There has been an intention to get AJ Styles versus Roman Reigns for a very long time, but there simply hasn't been the potential to do so. AJ Styles not believed to have been interested in anything that even took him into the same locker room as Paul Heyman. For Paul Heyman's part, he largely left it alone. He actually spoke glowingly about AJ Styles on a number of occasions, and backstage sources indicate that while AJ Styles was unhappy with Paul Heyman, Heyman himself believed it to be just standard business and got on with his day. This led to the beginning of this year. With Triple H back in charge, there was an intention to have Gallows and Anderson return, and as part of those negotiations, Paul Heyman actually was involved to try and see whether they could get past the issues that they had in order to get back to more solid footing and potentially get back to a point where they were challenging on the same brand. The Superstar Shakeup, or the draft that came shortly afterwards, was a result of those conversations. Talks are said to have gone extremely well, and the deal was struck that the entirety of the club, including Mia Yim, would be moved to WWE SmackDown on the same brand as the Bloodline, as Paul Heyman, as Roman Reigns, knowing that they would eventually do AJ Styles versus Roman Reigns free. They are running out of top-level competitors for Roman Reigns. They wanted AJ Styles to be rebuilt in this way, and I do think this may also play into War Games. There is definitely a suggestion active at the moment, of the Bloodline, that being Roman, Jimmy and Solo, versus any combination of Judgment Day, that being Finn Balor, Damian Priest and Dominic Mysterio, the Club, that being AJ Styles, Karl Anderson and Luke Gallows, and also, for example, Bobby Lashley's current faction of Bobby Lashley, Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins. There's also the potential of adding in there Cody Rhodes, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Now, if this sounds like carnage, that's because it would be. So I don't think that's exactly what we're going to get, but with the actual overlap between the Saudi Arabia show and Survivor Series, where we're believed to have War Games once again, I wouldn't put it past anyone to have that level of carnage all in one ring. Let's be honest, it would be fun. They have already started working towards a feud. AJ Styles is currently working against Jimmy Uso, and it looks likely at the upcoming pay-per-view upcoming pay-per-view Fastlane, we will see John Cena pairing with AJ Styles against Jimmy Uso and Solo Sikoa as we build towards John Cena versus Solo Sikoa, also possibly in Saudi Arabia. Now, I can confirm, I was first reported on Spoiler Warning, that Roman Reigns will be defending his undisputed WWE World Heavyweight Universal Championship of the world, Bloodline, etc., Tribal Chieftain, whatever it may be, at the event Crown Jewel in Saudi Arabia. AJ Styles is the only one who currently has an active storyline with him outside of challenges who've already failed, such as Jey Uso and Cody Rhodes. There is one more question we have to ask though, and that's the status of Luke Gallows and Karl Anderson. Gallows and Anderson have some very lucrative contracts that pay moderately well for an absolute lack of actual appearances. The original idea seemed to be that they would only appear when AJ Styles was there, but there has been many occasions when even that has not happened. With, let's just say, releases supposedly incoming, you have to ask the question as to whether or not AJ Styles might not be too happy when this match eventually comes around. Subscribe for more information as we get it, and more news of course, and check out the video on screen to find out more news about wrestling. I've been Tom Colohue, and I'll see you soon.